Oh, I love you, Mr. One Ring. Oh, Master Samwise. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Before I get started though, I do have a bit of a unique announcement. After many of you asking for it for so long, I do finally have a merch shop available. So you can get ThrabenU hoodies, long sleeve tees, a couple of different types of t-shirts that come in different colors. You've got some options for ThrabenU merch available now. That information is available both on my website and in the video description if that's something that you're interested in. So I had a little bit of leftover funding from when I did the Ob Nixilis video and kind of combined Derek and Eugene's donation decklist ideas into one, so I decided that I was going to mess around with Samwise the Stouthearted today. It is a flash creature and it has sort of an interesting ability. When it ETBs, you choose up to one target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn, you return it to your hand, and then the ring tempts you. So a lot of people came to me early on and were like, huh, this with Wasteland in Death and Taxes? And I need to temper your expectations a little bit for playing this card in Death and Taxes. Because we now live in a world where Orcish Bowmasters is one of the most played cards in the entire Legacy format. Like, it is up there with like Brainstorm and Surgical Extraction and Force of Will in terms of the amount that it's played in the format. So playing additional X1 creatures in Death and Taxes is not something that I want to explore. I've got some ideas. Come back in a day or two for that video. Now, while playing it just for Wasteland and D&T doesn't make a lot of sense, playing it in a deck that has a bunch of fetch lands and Wasteland does start to make a lot of sense. On turn 2, on your turn or your opponent's turn, you can fetch, get flooded, like fetch with a Flooded Strand, play Samwise, and get your land back. And that is a decent source of early game card advantage. And the thing about this card is you're not just playing it for the early game. Instead, I want you to imagine this as part of an engine with Caracas where you reuse this effect repeatedly. In the early game, this card can serve kind of as like a Baleful Strix, right? Like you play it, it draws a card. It draws a card in a very specific way, but it still kind of draws a card, right? But endgame, let's imagine that you have 5 or more mana. Oh, one of your creature dies in combat? Tap Caracas, bounce Mr. Samwise here, replay it, get your card back. And this can set up for some pretty good loops in terms of inevitability. So we are going to be trying out this card today in a dedicated Esper, like ETB value deck that is sometimes referred to as Esper Vial, as it does play Aether Vial. You know, playing black, so certain things might have to just go into our deck. But we are going to be doing some really cool things as well, and one of them is abusing Gilded Drake. So back in the day, Gilded Drake used to be used against like large creature decks, you know, your Reanimator decks, your Show and Tell decks, as a way to steal their Emrakul or whatever. Our plan is a bit more fair. We're just going to use it. We're going to take one of our opponent's creatures. And once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and blink the Gilded Drake back to our hand, or blink it back to the battlefield with something like Charming Prince to really take advantage of grinding. So our deck is going to be extremely value oriented, and we're not just looking to do triggers once or twice. We are looking to just settle on in, get comfy, play a 4-hour league, go to time in nearly every round, and extract the maximum amount of value that we can out of all of our cards. Let's take a look at the full deck list here. Now, today's video is sponsored by both Moxfield.com as well as Cool Stuff Inc. Remember, if you need to buy any cards, promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your orders at Cool Stuff Inc. So here's the deck list in all of its Yorion-oriented glory. So we have a large number of fetch lands to take advantage of Samwise's ability, and we also are running 3 copies of Caracas to maximize our chance of bouncing either Samwise or Yorion to kind of go and get our value here. Notably absent from this deck list is Soul Herder, which I really expected to be here, but maybe that's a concession towards Orcish Bowmasters existing and Soul Herder being an X1 creature. We already do have a relatively large number of X1 creatures within this deck list, so something's got to give somewhere. There are a handful of cards that you might not be super familiar with, even if you are a regular Legacy viewer, as Esper Vial tends to play a lot of things that are kind of dubious in terms of actual Legacy playability, but in this like super grindy deck, these like legendary creatures with these interesting ETB abilities become very good. Now, there's I think some real issues with this deck. I'm not really a super big fan of it personally because I feel like it's not very good at winning the game. I feel like it's exceptionally good at not losing, but the deck is so slow at actually winning the game. And especially in game one scenarios, you have minimal like advantages versus combo decks. Like in game one, you're basically relying on force of will and maybe a meddling mage to win you a game versus most combo deck lists. So if you take a look at the sideboard here, a huge portion of these things are just dedicated for combo. I pulled a 5-0 deck list. I think the deck list is weird. A one of Leyline of the Void, for example, is a choice in an 80 card Yorion deck list. But, this is a player's name that I recognize, and I'm sure they have put in the work kind of tuning this deck list. And speaking of legendary creatures with interesting ETB abilities, this is cool. With Karakas, this is a reusable way to nuke a graveyard while also having some other utility in other matchups. So I'm playing this to see how good Samwise actually is in a shell that is built for him. Let's see how it goes. Let's battle. Okay, I have kind of an unimpressive hand here, but I don't necessarily think it's a mulligan still. Like, Orcish Bowmasters is going to be good against most, like, non-Chalice of the Void decks. I have a Wasteland for non-basic lands in the early game, and I have a way to recycle some ETB triggers. I think I am happy enough to just lead on a basic island here. And I'm going to just go ahead and shove this Yorion away so my battlefield stops bouncing back and forth. We are hoping not to be playing against something like Show and Tell here. Like, I want to be playing against a fair blue deck where my Orcish Bowmasters matters. Stoneblade, maybe? Yeah, my Orcish Bowmasters is pretty good against that. So, do I want to brainstorm here? My plan for my turn is probably just Wasteland Tundra rather than play Orcish Bowmasters immediately. And then I'll probably play Orcish Bowmasters the following turn, which means if I don't cast this Brainstorm now, it's not the best. Holy lands, Batman. I don't think I can redraw all of those. I think I have to fetch. So we'll put an island back in the deck and put one. Actually, maybe I don't need to take this much random damage off of fetch lands. Blue, black, white if I want to stay on basics. Yeah, I think I do this. Alright, Staff resolves. But I really wanted to wasteland my opponent here rather than go and just play Bowmasters immediately. And I do think I will stay on basics. Like, I know my opponent fetched a Tundra, but back to basics is annoying. And I'd rather play around it still. Alright, so we get to ping that. My opponent will still have access to white mana, and they can just remove my Orcish Bowmasters, which is why I really wanted to Wasteland first, but here we are. Alright, we are playing against an Esper control deck of some kind. They're going to just play an Orcish Bowmasters and kill my Orcish Bowmasters. Ooh, it is Stoneforge Mystic. I am not a fan of that. That doesn't get killed by Orcish Bowmasters. And I don't easily have access to a white card to pitch to Solitude. I have access to one, I just don't like how it happens. Because it involves putting my Yorion to my hand. I can bounce the Stoneforge, but if I do that, then I don't have Force of Will available for the worst case scenarios. If I draw another Wasteland next turn, I want to have played this already. To double Wasteland my opponent. I'm going to go ahead and play this. and be generally unhappy with what I'm about to do. But I'm just not, I think, in the situation where I can beat a Cauldron right now. Yeah, I hate this. I hate this so much. Just gross. Just gross. 4 cards to deal with a Stoneforge Mystic. This is me believing in the inevitability of my ETB triggers in this deck. And we'll see if that was an okay decision, or whether or not I should have just let the Cauldron hit play. And that is a Caracas under a new name, FYI. Will probably be my Wasteland target. I hate attacking into open black mana. Like, I can Wasteland them off of Underground Sea. I don't think I'm supposed to attack with Orcish Bowmasters. I think I can attack with the Orc and, like, not be upset if the Orc dies, but my Orcish Bowmaster's eating it to a Hull Breacher or an Orc token block would be pretty bad for me. I think I'm just going to go ahead and attack with only the Orc. Alright, my opponent takes that, and now I decide whether or not I'm playing this card this turn. Wastelanding my opponent is pretty legit. Like, I have 2 different good Wasteland targets. But I think I am more interested in just starting to get some card advantage. I don't know. Maybe I wait because, like, my opponent just bounces this. I think if they just bounce this while they're playing the control deck, that ends up being favorable for me. Oh, I see. You're doing a similar thing. Okay. Yours has more value than mine. So I don't want them to have Stoneforge Mystic. I also don't want them to have Source of Plowshares. There's no way they take the top pile if I do both of these. The Stoneforge is much harder for me to beat right now. I'm going to leave that in the face-up pile. Okay, they did end up with the Stoneforge Mystic. They didn't tap this in a way that just let them bounce this immediately. Okay, yep, that's expected. And now they get to play the same game, except my pile has 1 fewer cards than their pile has. Gilded Drake or 2 unknown cards. Gilded Drake is sort of interesting versus the Stoneforge Mystic that I know that my opponent has. I think I will take 2 unknown cards. Got. So my opponent has made a land drop. Now they're getting to deploy a bunch of stuff. My problem right now is that I don't have the Yorion that I normally have at this point of the game because I had to work so hard to get rid of the Stoneforge Mystic the first time. Need a Brainstorm. 5th land is kind of like a Brainstorm. I'm gonna get obliterated by Jute. Guess I'll take this out and put a land into play to better hedge against. I think I attack with both. Bluff another Orcish Bowmasters. I think I'm in trouble. So I think I take, yeah, a bit of a risky line. And now that I've bluffed Orcish Bowmasters, a little bit more likely that my opponent doesn't go for the immediate Jete play, which would wreck me. And they instead go for the Cauldron play, which is a little bit more beatable for me, but still very bad. Thank you. I think you very potentially attack with Strix here, because like 6 damage is a 3-turn clock, whereas 5 damage is a 4-turn clock. Yeah, but I'm in bad shape. Deck, please. That's rough. But it's still a 2-turn clock in the air, so I'm going to go ahead and make my attack here. The opponent's at 7. I have to hope that I can just race them. I can't really race them with like Jete being a thing, though. Yeah, I'm just going to concede here. The 2 cards under the... what is it, Addis? The 2 cards under the Addis being land, followed by my next 2 draws also being land, was pretty brutal. But, like, my cards in theory are pretty darn good on average. Snuff Out is reasonable, as is Prismatic Ending, as more ways to answer Stoneforge Mystic. I'll play another Lauren as an out to non-Cauldron equipment. And I have, like, some counterspells that are medium, but, like, these are bad as the game goes on, and it was catastrophic for me to pitch cards in this matchup in game 1. Meddling Mage doesn't really feel like it's at its best. Like, I can use it to shut off removal, but if I name Swords to Plowshares, I can't Swords to Plowshares their stuff. When I'm on the play specifically, I can use it to name Stoneforge Mystic. But again, my opponent has a bunch of generic removal. I don't think I'm excited about Meddling Mage. I'm also not like super excited about Aether Vial against Prismatic Ending. I think I want my Meddling Mages when I'm on the play. I am just very bad versus Stoneforge Mystic, and I think I'll cut most of my vials. Okay. Alright, my opponent tanked on their mulligan decision, and then ended up keeping their hand. I don't really have the fastest hand. I'm pretty good versus non-basics, but sure, that's fine. Alright, so that is just fully a brainstorm before I can do something like play an Orcish Bowmasters. Alright, and now I decide whether or not I just want to sorcery speed this to scry. White, black, blue. I'm going to sorcery speed this to scry. I'm kind of already in this situation where I'm flooding out. The one awkward thing about doing this is that if I draw a brainstorm next turn, not great at just doing that innately. Alright, land goes on bottom. Strix can go on top. I have Snuff Out available for if my opponent just jams Stoneforge, and if that gets countered, I have Teferi as a follow-up. I hate this. I hate this now. It's just very bad versus Orcish Bowmasters, so I think in respect of that, I'm just supposed to sorcery speed do this and see if my opponent flashes in a Bowmasters. They do. Which does not die to Snuff Out, which is why this card has become a worse removal spell in this format. Alright, so they just ping me. I would be fine trading Charming Prince for Orcish Bowmasters. I'd be trading 2 for 2 damage, and I am at the lower life total. But I think I'm going to at least give my opponent the option to take the trade. They do not take it. Man, X1 creatures that cantrip are in a bad place. I mean, so is Teferi for that matter. My opponent can't really attack here due to fear of my own. Oh, they have 1 land. Hell yeah. That's nice. Yeah, so let's go ahead and play this and see if it resolves. Get a brainstorm in response when I don't have Orcish Bowmasters available. It's in play. I think I go ahead and just bounce the Orcish Bowmasters for tempo here. Samwise is cool. Yeah, I think I just hold back Charming Prince. I might be missing some damage by doing this. But in the cases where my opponent does not have a black land, this is pretty clutch. So this would put my opponent into a situation where they have to fetch a non-basic again if they want to cast Orcish Bowmasters. Staff of the Storyteller is fine. I can blow up that creature with a Snuff Out if I end up needing to. So always Teferi Plus. It's a little safer versus Bowmasters now. Probably Strix to get deeper. I hate all these X1 creatures so much. Bowmasters is stupid. Your Recruiter of the Guard. Sure. I'm going to go ahead and attack for 2. My opponent takes that. And I think I just play Marsh Flats and pass. And potentially get my Teferi or a fetch land or a Baleful Strix back, depending on how things go here. I don't think I've shown my opponent Samwise yet. Alright, so there is the Bowboy. Alright, Bowboy shoots Strix, which I will intend on just getting back. Alright, so Teferi is being attacked by both of those. Do I let it die and then just put it back in my hand to bounce the Orcish Bowmasters again? No, I think I protect it so that my Recruiter resolves. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and fetch. Play Samwise, which I know will resolve. Return Strix to my hand. Charming Prince can be my Ring Bearer, because Samwise is about to die. Looking to take that trade while I can. Do I snuff out? Next turn I plus to 2 again. I don't think I have to snuff out. Yep, you can draw your card. All right. So I will plus. Note that this is now legendary for the purposes of Charming Prince. So I'll play this. Recruiter of the Guard. Yes. Orcish Bowmasters. Play it. Hang your Orcish Bowmasters. I've already plussed this, right? I have. So I'll go ahead and punch on in for 2. My Teferi is still safe. I have Snuff Out as insulation versus a Stoneforge Mystic. I guess another Orcish Bowmasters is awkward if I let Teferi take the hit. I'm pretty bad versus Stoneforge right now, so I think I'm okay with what I'm doing. For sure. Another staff is fine. Like, the bodies are good. And recharge Staff of the Storyteller. But, you know. A new Orcish Bowmasters. That is awkward. Presumably shoots my Orcish Bowmasters. Yep. Charges Staff. I don't have a Plague Engineer game 1. May need to fight against these spirits. I don't really like doing it, but my opponent has access to a shit ton of cards. Alright, so I can bounce Charming Prince. Alright. I don't think I risk any of this stuff in combat right now. So let's Caracas, bounce Charming Prince, play Charming Prince, link Recruiter, wasteland my opponent, off black for more Bowmasters, move to my end step, Recruiter. This is my last Bowmasters. So I'll play that. Ping your Bowmasters. And give my Orc a slightly bigger booty. I don't know that I'm the biggest fan of this. The best answer to Orcish Bowmasters is Orcish Bowmasters thing that we've got going on here. Alright, I assume this is at my Planeswalker. It is. Teferi drops a loyalty. My opponent has staff activations, but they're pretty costly. Yep. I'm not a fan of that, and I really didn't want to use Snuff Out to protect Teferi, but like Teferi being at 2 versus 1 is such an incredibly large deal that I felt like I had to. That was a new art Swords to Plowshares? A new art Swords to Plowshares. Okay. So what does Recruiter get? That stops Stoneforge Mystic. Gilded Drake, I guess. But that doesn't stop the Jitte that they have. Lauren Wood. Alright, always plus that. A natural draw into a removal spell would be pretty good here. Don't think I like the line of giving up my Yorion to guarantee Solitude. Let's start here. Natural Lauren draw is interesting. Alright. We grind. This might get a little miserable. I'll blow up a staff that has 2 thingies on it. And then just sorcery speed bounce my Lauren to keep it safe. Jitte doesn't obliterate me anymore. And I'll just kind of hang back, protect the Teferi. And I can do Recruiter nonsense if Kaldra gets involved. My opponent found black again. Ooh, that's annoying. My opponent's counterspells will now be back on. I have to figure out how to beat the Stoneforge. That helps a lot. I'm going to go ahead and cast a Recruiter of the Guard as a starting point here. I wish I just had more Bowmasters. Alright, it's in play. Solitude is going to be one of the things that will be best versus a counterspell, which I kind of think my opponent has. A Charming Prince into that, but then that gets worse versus a removal spell. Samwise is pretty cute as well. Or if things go wrong. I think I'm just going to take Solitude as a second removal spell. And I will go ahead and cast this. I think too many things can go wrong for me still, even with 2 pieces of interaction. Alright. There is Jitte. Opponent has like a billion things to think about here, like Swords, Solitude, Bowmasters, Samwise. Okay. The Orc comes on in. I believe I start with this. Ooh, hell yeah. Did not really expect that to just happen that safely. The opponent really wants to counter the Lauren. That is going to disrupt it longer term, which is fair. Okay, sure. That's fine. You may have your card. Kind of scared of Force of Will. Also kind of scared of just getting ambushed by like a Batter Skull or something, which is why I'm not making traditional attacks here. We are both in danger of timing out, by the way. Prismatic Ending? HJT equip. That is fine. So I'm mostly hoping that Lauren resolves. Yes. That seems hard to beat for my opponent. So that gets forced. Then I go ahead and play the Lauren to blow up Jitte. At this point, I think I am turning the corner. So I think I'm going to go ahead and try to force some damage through. I'm okay trading a body for a body here. My opponent's at 5. I have Solitude as my last card. I still have Yorion if I need it. Wow, that is a good Plague Engineer. Holy shit. Another Stoneforge Mystic is a problem. Now I can't just Solitude one of them. Cauldron gets in either way, so now Solitude has to answer the Germ token. Okay. I can go ahead and play this. I think just Teferi bounce the Plague Engineer. Recruiter for basically any white card. I don't have time to think here. Venser's pretty good as well. Yeah, I'm happy enough with a Venser. Oh, I could have done better with a 2-drop. Okay, my opponent's going to go to 1. I am just going to F6 here. I think individual seconds on clock matter quite a bit right now. Yeah, you can come in and rename human. That's fine. Okay, we'll continue to tick Vial up. Go ahead and Teferi plus here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 7 mana. I don't think I get to attack this turn. Just going to hold up these options. Okay. So here's the Cauldron. I have Solitude and Venser as things that mess with this. Draw your card. Alright, so Teferi's getting attacked by both of those, which I think means I play Venser, return the Germ to hand, block with Venser, bounce Venser, and I am just going to pull a fetchable out of my deck to save time later, I think. My Teferi's still on board. I have 2 creatures that can attack. My opponent has 2 defenders. I have a Venser that can take 1 out of the way. Can actually do a lot with Venser. Ooh. Okay. That's annoying. Still feels beatable, but annoying. So, land drop, Teferi plus, cast Solitude, Solitude one of those out of the way. Venser is now live. Go ahead and attack with an Orc. Double block scenario is slightly annoying. I think I do just do this and bounce one of those out of the way. Like, onboard bodies matter a lot. I guess I don't have to bounce Venser yet. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. Failure to find. Sure. I think my opponent has to not attack here. Oh, okay, sure. I will block and bounce Venser. Nope. Alright, Swords to Plowshares on my Solitude is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and leave this at 4. So a lot of this is, does my opponent have a removal spell for if I Teferi minus? I can bounce one thing out of the way. Or no, I can... No, okay, I've got this. So tap. Yes. Venser. Bounce a creature out of the way. Tap. bounce Venser, or Venser creature. Oh no, this is 2 damage, not 3 damage. Fuck. Can you tell that I am on a time deadline here? I'll go ahead and attack on in. Put my opponent to 1. This fetch land is now off. I go in F6, save myself some seconds here. Alright, there's a Swords of Plowshares on the Venser. I still have Yorion, that's not the end of the world, but I played sloppy. Okay, Strix is fine. And we've got a cantrip. They're stuck with whatever cards they have, because they can't fetch. So they need a Swords of Plowshares here, I think. Yeah, so this is the problem with playing this deck, is like you're very good at not losing, but you just can't win the game in a reasonable amount of time. So I am not going to attempt to play a game in 42 seconds here. I am going to go ahead and just concede and save my time. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to play another creature that can attack. I have to F6 all my turns. I maybe even like should just board out Force of Will. But this deck is not meant to play games this quickly. Sure, put back some land. This is the unfun game of does my opponent time out before I do. Nope. I'm going to just be preemptively fetching things out. And I don't think there's any way I can realistically win. But we'll see. Yeah, okay, whatever. I'm done here. Yeah, this is why you don't play this deck, but the interactions that we had were interesting, and Samwise did some cool stuff. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is where I keep all of my deck lists online, and I actually want to show off a feature they made specifically for me, because their team is small and responsive. On the Settings and Decks tab, you can actually click Ignore Card Flavor Names to shut off displaying new names for cards, like Balaam's Tomb instead of Ancient Tomb. So if those sorts of things are annoying you online, here's how you shut it off. Alright, we've got to keep for round 2 here. We're hoping my opponent is on a fair deck that Orcish Bowmasters is good against, or maybe an unfair deck where Gilded Drake can just go and steal a large creature and just instantly win the game. Guess I can set this back. Alright, we are playing against a fair deck, probably a Death Shadow deck here. Alright, I presume goodbye Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, yes, Orcish Bowmasters is indeed gone. So I kind of am just on draw go for a little while. Alright, so we have the classic Brainstorm and Fetch. I'm slightly sad that I don't have my Bowmasters. No fetch, though. I have to decide whether or not I'm going to do something like play Teferi into a Daze. I have another land, so I don't have to. I can just put Yorion into my hand this turn and continue to wait things out. Which I think I'm okay with. White, black, blue. Are we going to have a Stifle on the third one? We do. I will probably just Force of Will that. I like my lands here. I'll throw away this slow thing. And I think I will just play Teferi around Daze next turn still. Not give my opponent the easy target. I just hate, like, my opponent's deck is going to have 4 Orcish Bowmasters in it, and, like, Teferi isn't the best against that, so, like, maybe I'm supposed to just jam it. But, like, I would much rather cast a Teferi after my opponent has played a creature to bounce that creature. Alright, there's a shuffle. My opponent played Underground Sea prior to the Ponder. They didn't leave themselves with the possibility of take the best card and shuffle if they took a fetch land. Alright, there is a Death Shadow. I will happily enough bounce that out of play with Teferi. Probably leaving up the Underground Sea. Again, this is just like awkward versus Orcish Bowmasters, though, if my opponent has it. Oops, all Gilded Drakes. My life total's not particularly low right now, so I'm not super interested in Gilded Drake for Death Shadow right now. So that is a Wasteland with a new name. Okay. We're happy that it was not Bowmasters. That's where we're at. All right. And Shadow comes back. So Teferi goes up. I Gilded Drake. I swap for Death Shadow. Death Shadow dies. Then I Gilded Drake and swap for a Gilded Drake. Or is it better for me to not kill Death Shadow and Gilded Drake for Baleful Strix and then Gilded Drake for Gilded Drake? One of those leaves me with 2 bodies and one of those leaves me with 1 bodies, but like the Death Shadow gets bigger. Baleful Strix doesn't die to Fatal Push. That's a thing. I think I kill the Death Shadow. I think the Death Shadow just like permanently being out of range of some of my removal spells is a problem. I think I'm okay with this. And I think I am going to take a Gilded Drake here, despite the fact that like that play is bad versus Snuff Out. Because this play is good versus Orcish Bowmasters. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Now I lose my Teferi and get dealt 1 point of damage. I have a Yorion that I can just like legit play as a bot blocker. That's dazable, and I don't love it. Might just have to do that. No longer have to do that. What am I getting? Bowmasters? Don't think just Bowmasters. I guess Charming Prince is pretty good too. Fuck. That's a good stifle. Got a Yorion Blink for next turn. Daze is kind of scary. Snuff Out's kind of scary. Bowmasters is kind of scary. Murktide Region is horrifying. Alright. I am in a situation where I just have to play this, and Daze and Force of Will just get me. Okay. That's not the end of the world. It's annoying for me, but it is not the end of the world. Yeah, I'll battle. Don't have Karakas available to protect Yorion right now. Okay. Assuming a removal spell, I am on a 2-turn clock, and Samwise probably isn't going to help me out with that. Yeah, I will take the hits from Strix, assuming that Yorion can dig me out of some bullshit, given a little bit of time. Okay. Die to Orcish Bowmasters? Die to Orcish Bowmasters. Alright. Charming Prince and land drop. Put Force of Will on bottom. Draw Sam next turn. Do some nonsense with it. Stifle, very good against me here. Exile Recruiter. God damn it, no. It is a Fatal Push instead. Okay. So I'm not dead, but I'm real close. And I know my draw for next turn, and it's not the greatest. That takes out my Karakas. That's so annoying. So Samwise is my draw. Block with Charming Prince. Block with Charming Prince. Take 2, go to 6. The next turn, I can block with Yorion on Death Shadow. Take 5, go to 1. Cast Samwise, put Yorion to my hand. My following draw is Force of Will, though, which doesn't really get me anywhere. Alright. Didn't quite put it together. So I get 2 removal spells. I want to play this. I don't really know that I do. I have so many X1s in my deck versus Orcish Bowmaster. Like, my X1s are bad versus Bowmaster, so is Teferi. I don't really want to be Force of Willing because the cards that I'm pitching are good. I don't know, maybe I need Force of Will for Orcish Bowmasters. I don't know, like, I'm just not playing the 4X Orcish Bowmasters deck versus a 4X Orcish Bowmasters deck. And that feels really bad. Really, really bad. Like, I can fill slots and then not be playing Force of Wills. This hand loses to itself too much of the time, I think, to keep it. Like, I need all 3 of my colors, and I have access to one of them. I brainstorm lock myself a good portion of the time. Stifle is a concern. I think I'd rather keep something with more stable mana. This qualifies. I'll keep this and pitch my 4-drop. And I think I just preemptively fetch a basic plains around Stifle here. Oops. So I can choose to wasteland my opponent and get that land drop stifled. I don't think that's something that I want to do. I think I'm more interested in just like laying out an initial body that'll die to Orcish Bowmasters on my opponent's turn. Sure, that's fine. Yep. I assume that I lose swords. Like, it's possible that I'm wrong, but swords feels like the best thing here. Alright, my assessment is correct. I don't like what's happening here. Like, I need my lands, but this doesn't cast most of my spells. So I'm in this really weird situation where I can cast Charming Prince, but if I do so and it gets dazed, it's pretty awkward for me. Or I can leave my opponent in a position where they can just untap and play an Orcish Bowmasters, clear my board, and leave me in an absolutely terrible spot. I mean, like, I'll have a Charming Prince in play, but that card isn't going to do anything. I hate this. I think I'm supposed to try to continue to make land drops. That is not castable. Aether Vial is interesting. I think naturally drawing lands are better than drawing this Aether Vial. Like, this Aether Vial is a guaranteed source of slow mana many turns from now. I think I would rather bottom that and just look for a land. Alright, so am I getting Bowmastered? I'm getting Dread of Knighted. Okay, sure. Is Dread of Knight good against me? Yeah, it kills. Okay, it kills some stuff. This requires blue for the disturb, right? Yeah. I don't think I wasteland my opponent. Maybe that's not true. Orcish Bowmasters is so effing good. Like, my opponent's in the situation though where they still get to cantrip even if I wasteland them. And I don't. I don't know. I'm just like losing in so many capacities. Like, I'm going to lose to a large creature. I'm going to lose to an Orcish Bowmasters. I probably lose to a wasteland. Yeah. And that just would have happened another turn down the line if I didn't remove it. Or sorry, if I didn't wasteland my opponent. Okay. I get to attempt to be in business. So I can play around Daze and Force of Will by waiting on Teferi. Or I can play this card and take 6 damage. I think I play this card and take 6 damage. I think just getting this or attempting to get this out of play safely just matters too much to not attempt it. It's just awkward that, like, a Fatal Push or a Snuff Out or something means that a counterspell still works, but this at least gives me a turn to attempt to play around a Daze. Although, by playing around Daze and Force of Will, I then don't play around Stifle, which is some shit. So here we go. Okay, just straight up hard casting a Brazen Borrower with their mana. I will go ahead and I will take Murktide Regent out of the way. That solves a problem in the short term. Maybe gets me another land drop. Negative. I am always attacking with this. I would be happy with this trade. I'm unsure if I am supposed to hold this back. I probably hold it back, because I would be happy enough trading it with Brazen Borrower in an attempt to keep the board clear. Lots of fetch lands towards replaying Murktide Regent. Yeah, so the reason to attack on my previous turn is Snuff Out, just clearing the way, and then I don't get any extra value out of my body. Counterspells are back online. And my opponent gets to replay Murktide Regent. I'm hoping for a black land so that I can play Baleful Strix. Okay, sure. Last card, Stifle. Let's go. Am I supposed to play around their last card being Stifle by wastelanding Watery Grave? I just need this land drop, though, as this game goes on. Like, I have Yorion coming. I would love to Baleful Strix and then play a 1 or 2 drop afterwards. Yeah. I'm going to just fetch. They will have the Stifle 100% of the time now that I've taken this line. Fucking A. Alright, GG's. Alright, I don't think I'm interested in keeping a hand that looks like this. I just have 0 ability to cast any spells outside of Force of Will for the majority of this game. I think I would rather just mulligan and play reasonable magic that allows me to make decisions. Jack. Very nice. We'll cast Baleful Strix on turn 2. Off our plains and snow-covered middle finger. Fuck me. Deck is shit. We are on track for an 0-4 drop league, folks. On 5, I'm probably supposed to keep this. Like, it is probably correct. Like, to keep this, pitch both of the meddling mages, and have a reasonable shot at... Of course, the Force of Will would have been good. God damn it. Well, this will be a fast round. My suffering will be over shortly. Yeah. So there's Grizzlebrand Reanimate. And basically I need to draw exactly Caracas. I have 4 copies. So I'm not dead here. I will let my opponent see what deck I am playing. But I have a tough post-board game ahead of me. Alright, that was supposed to be the Caracas moment to redeem the mulligan situation that we started out with. I don't think I can beat my opponent after they draw another set of 7 cards. This attack drops me to 13. I'm dead in 2 turns to Grizzlebrand, and they will presumably produce a second body this turn. Like, it doesn't even need to be anything impressive. Like, a Grief will probably be good enough. Okay. There's Archon of Cruelty and Atraxa. And another Dark Ritual so that they can Entomb or... Not Entomb, play either one of the 2-drop reanimation spells. Yeah, okay. Alright, we're dead. Yeah. So I'll board in most of my sideboard. Force of Negation, Leyline of the Void. This is technically Graveyard Hate. Spell Pierces are fine. This is maybe acceptable. Lauren technically does stuff, but I don't know that I'm interested in a second copy. All my cards kind of do something, but at a shitty capacity. Charming Prince is one of the least generically good ones. I'll probably junk that. Fairy Time Raveler is an out to a creature, but it's very slow. And I'm trying to get faster at answering stuff. I'm not interested in Addis. Spencer is very slow. Maybe I keep Baron. Maybe a matchup where I just, like, don't fuck around with Samwise. It is a flash creature, which, like, is not nothing. I'm better at answering creatures once they're in play rather than stopping them from getting into play in the first place. Like, I have Teferi, kind of Strix, Swords, Solitude as things that can attack bodies once they get into play, but normally you just want to, like, let them off from other angles instead. Yeah, like, I'm probably not supposed to keep a hand that looks like this that can't interact with my opponent's spells at all. Like, yes, I have ways of stopping the creatures once they're in play, but if that creature is like Grizzlebrand or Archon or Atraxa, that just, like, is not great for me. I'll keep this throwing back 1 fetch land, I think. So we're going to play Land Go for a little while. It's slightly awkward for me because Spell Pierce gets worse the longer I stay on that strategy. But my opponent is pretty likely to play something that I want to pierce. I will pierce that just so my opponent does not know the texture of my hand. I care about black or white mana more. Maybe black for Bowmasters. I'm sad that I don't get to wasteland my opponent. Ooh, okay. I am fully at the mercy of the top of my deck being reasonable. Gilded Drake is interesting. Play out a Flooded Strand and pass. Just so bad versus so many things here. Yep. My opponent gets to Grief and take this Gilded Drake. It's in the graveyard for the future purposes of, like, an Exhume. which counts for something, I guess. I am going to fetch to thin here. It may be worse than holding it for Brainstorm, but I'm going to play out a Wasteland and awkwardly hold up Spell Pierce. Like, not putting the Yorion to my hand tells my opponent that I have a new piece of interaction. They don't necessarily know what that is. Alright, so I'll go to 15. Yeah, and I kind of time walk myself by not using my mana. Lauren is not really good in this instance. I'm going to play this as a land drop. And I think just put the Yorion to my hand rather than just play out Lauren as a 2-power body. I just am going to take a beating from this grief in the short to medium term. Karakas is cool. Do I play out Yorion? If I play out Yorion, I don't have Spell Pierce up. So probably not. I'll represent a couple different cards here by leaving up full Esper colors. I just kind of hate that this Spell Pierce probably falls off as of this turn, maybe next turn. I'm going to be so embarrassed if I just lose to a 3-power menace creature. I'm on track to do that. Alright, opponent didn't play anything else out. Well, that at least lets me play Yorion while holding up Spell Pierce. That's worth something. Alright. My opponent's at 13. I'll be playing this holding up a Tundra, I believe. A second black mana here. I now have the possibility of blocking a Grief. Not getting any ETB value off of this Yorion. Still no plays from my opponent. They potentially just sussed out my Spell Pierce. Yep, I will let that go. Does make my Spell Pierce worse. Wouldn't be surprised if this is just a show and tell. Oh, let's attempt a Spell Pierce on that. Okay, I have become the beatdown now. Do I use that? I probably don't use that. I think I'm just okay trading Lauren and having my opponent on a 2-turn clock while keeping Swords to Plowshares in my hand. And I don't think I'm interested in tapping Lauren at all. Awkward if my opponent can slip an Archon of Cruelty into play and I don't keep the second creature, though. Alright, back to my turn. Thank you, deck. Very good. Well, I think I hold this in hand for insulation versus something like Archon of Cruelty. That way I can bounce Yorion back to my hand, Swords to Plowshares, Archon, and discard Marshflots. So this is my opponent's big turn. Reanimate is off. Exhume is basically off because of Gilded Drake. Okay. We're pretty lucky that my opponent had 6 cards there and just couldn't do anything. I'm okay with this sideboard plan. Vial's kind of rough on the draw. I could literally just play another blue card that pitches to these forces over Vial. Yeah, I think on the draw, I'm literally just going to increase my blue count more. Perfect mana base. So I can keep a hand that keeps based on the strength of a Spell Pierce on the draw, and then can't cast most of its spells on curve. Or I can just mulligan like I'm going to do. This is a much stronger hand. Recruiter of the Guard is a good card, but is not blue. I think means I just pitch it here. Alright, my opponent's on 6. They could YOLO go for something and I could stop it, which would be cool. Alright, it is just a pass the turn scenario. That's a great draw. We'll play the land that lets me potentially just brainstorm in case I need to hide counterspells from discard. Excuse me. Okay, do I even cast Brainstorm? If I cast Brainstorm, it's really awkward if my opponent... if I hide both counterspells and my opponent has Dark Ritual go off, it's really awkward for me, so I think I'm just gonna not. Alright, so I've lost Force of Will, which is not surprising. I don't think I cast Brainstorm here. I think I let my opponent know that I drew a fetch land. It's just quite good to be able to brainstorm end of turn and shuffle if I need to. which I will do. Get clapped by Orcish Bowmasters out of the sideboard. Cool. Probably just throw back 2 lands here. Actually, maybe I do fetch now. Got white mana. I don't need that. Okay. So now it's, do I hold up Hardcast Force of Negation versus do I Wasteland my opponent? I think I hold up Hardcast Force of Negation. I can Wasteland my opponent on my next turn if I still feel like it's a good idea. Thoughtseize is fine. Alright. We're doing this whole Drago thing, and we'll probably continue to do that for a while. Venser can bounce a land. Just throwing that out there, that is a thing that is possible. It's a bit of an awkward draw. I think after you missed your land drop, I am interested in Wastelanding now. And I think I would rather hold up Force of Negation than hold up Pitchcast Force of Negation. I hate that it's turn 5, and I have no prospects of actually doing any points of damage to my opponent's life total. You have to survive so long versus these combo decks. This is scary. So because I Wastelanded my opponent, I don't actually have Hardcast Venser available. I could lose here. Ooh, opponent's got it all. Yep. I've got some prospects of beating this, but if my opponent draws the other 7, it becomes pretty dubious for me to actually win. I don't know, I still like Wastelanding because it takes them off of Orcish Bowmasters and decreases the chance that they show and tell. I don't think I regret my line. Like, I got punished for it, but I don't think I regret it. Now it's Baleful Strix versus Venser. Probably Venser, bounce Grizzlebrand. Not let my opponent gain the life. I think my opponent just draws another 7 cards in response to Grizzlebrand being bounced, and I'm in trouble. I guess it's scary for my opponent to go to 1 because they die to Orcish Bowmasters if they do that. So let's try to bounce this bad boy. Alright, they are going to 1. So they will die if I draw Orcish Bowmasters. I get 2 draws at doing that. I guess if they can produce a... Wow, totally... Archon of Cruelty. Then they go to 4, and it's not actually an issue. Okay, Grief is annoying. They do have to produce another body, though, or they are dead. Like, they are dead to a Venser attack. I don't think that should be a problem. Alright. Sure. I will sacrifice Venser. That's another land drop. I can't really put Yorion into my hand, or it just gets discarded. So I just have to take 9 damage. And I am just dead on board if I don't draw something that stops Archon. Even if I stop Archon, my opponent still has 8 cards. Can never pass the turn with Yorion in my hand. And they have a Grizzlebrand as well. Feels like we're dead. Yeah, that would have stopped an Archon alone. I can take 6 and go to 1. Guess I'm not technically dead. Just battered, broken, and scarred. I'll put this in my hand. It potentially gives me some more turns with Baraka's bounce at some point down the line, but it might just be incorrect to do this because my opponent's just going to take it out of my hand with their like 14 cards. My fetch land's dead. Force of Wills are off for the rest of the game. My opponent can kill me with an Orcish Bowmasters at this point. Oh, it's show and tell. Yeah, I am dead to that trigger. This is pretty brutal, folks. Like, this deck is designed to go and beat the fair decks, and we're losing to the fair decks. And the sideboard is the sideboard is designed to help you beat the unfair decks that you're losing to in game 1. But we have no pressure, so we're dragging the game on versus these combo decks where our interaction are things like Spell Pierce that get worse as the game goes on. Yikes. Alright. I have lands and spells. I will keep this hand. We're great versus a fair creature deck, and we're dead to a combo deck. Fair creature deck, maybe. Do I wasteland them? I probably just wasteland them in their upkeep. Like, I need my mana, but my opponent is either a storm adjacent deck list where their individual lands matters, Alright, sure. Okay. Are we playing against lands? And this is just Ancient Tomb to accelerate towards a timely Merit Lodge? If so, I'm currently beating that. Oh, it is Sphere lands. Annoying. Double annoying. So my wastelanding of the opponent is going to be a major pain in the ass for me, both because like my opponent dodges the wasteland, and because this happens, so now I can't deploy all of these 2-drops on curve. Also, Orcish Bowmasters is not really going to be good in this matchup. Yeah. So I will continue to make land drops. It is literally the only thing that I can do. My non-basic lands are going to be bad. Sure, that's fine. Cool. So I have a castable Brainstorm at this point that I will probably just fire off. There is a crop rotation or an Urza Saga, which I'm not super prepared to fight right now because I can't just like vomit off spells at that very easily. I have all the tools in the world to beat it, but time is another thing. It'd be cool if for some reason my opponent's sorcery speed activates Urza Saga, but I don't foresee that happening. Well, they have a lot of mana now. Yeah. I have to deal with Life from the Loam, Urza Saga through 2 sphere effects. Let's do some fetching. Don't have a second swamp. So that'll be island. This one is plains. One is probably second island. White only matters for 1 card in my entire deck. And let's see what this Brainstorm spits up. I will put back some cards. It doesn't really matter what I do. I'm drawing through all of them at some point in this game. I get to play a 2-drop this turn. Orcish Bowmasters doesn't really do much against my opponent's deck, so I am just going to go ahead and go with Strix instead. We'll draw through the Addis so that I actually have a real draw for next turn. But my opponent is at such an overwhelming level of advantage here. And like this is the most mana that I ever probably get in play. Like my opponent is doing a lot of damage to themselves with Ancient Tomb, but they can stop whenever they want due to Yavimaya. Map can get the other half of a combo. Alright, and they're gonna Life from the Loam. So they have access to both sides of their combo as well as recurring Urza Saga. Life's bad. I guess I could like rip Lauren as a draw. I did not. Hitting that extra basic naturally is nice, I guess. I can't really pivot to being the beatdown because my opponent just like makes Urza Saga tokens as blockers. So it's not like I can Bowmasters to the face, and really expect to win this game. Alright, so we're going to Recruiter. I think I'm picking up Lauren. Like I use Lauren to try to wade through this pile of bullshit, including the Urza Saga itself, I guess. And then I have a Source of Plowshares for Merit Lodge in the sort of medium term. I also just might have to deal with... I'm going to take this hit because those constructs are going to keep getting bigger. I also just have to deal with potentially Thespian Stage copying Urza Saga. Alright, and my opponent is going to activate at sorcery speed this time. I'm at 12. I don't know whether my opponent is going to crack Expedition Map or whether they're just going to copy Urza Saga. Am I just staying concerned with the short term and killing a construct? That's the way that I take the least amount of damage next turn. But I just hate everything here. I can't make additional non-basic land drops. Guess I can make an attack here. Put my opponent to 7. If they get too saucy with Ancient Tombs, maybe I can string together a kill with Bowmasters. Yeah, but this is the problem. Like, so frequently I just end up giving them 20 life. Alright, more constructs. Okay, at least my opponent has to choose. Right? Or, no, they don't have to choose. They get both. So I eat 6 damage. Go to 6. I'm dead to the constructs. I'm also dead to Merit Lodge in a separate way. Orcish Bowmasters doesn't put my opponent out of the way. Can't double spell because of Sphere. Yeah, I'm I'm done here. But I was pretty done after the second sphere resolved, honestly. I guess I play this. I guess I can play this to take opposing Moxen. Prismatic Ending is okay. Another Lauren is good. Force of Negations are largely better than Force of Wills. Samwise can help with me getting wastelanded. Gilded Drake is interesting. Yeah, I think my Force of Wills become Force of Negations. I don't know, maybe I need the Force of Wills for stopping spheres. Because I am relatively bad against them. Don't want Addis. Don't want Orcish Bowmasters. The expensive bouncy stuff is really awkward versus spheres. Recruiters, honestly, are also very awkward against spheres, but they're a way for me to find Lauren and other outs to things. Just, like, not happy with how this matchup looks for me. I hate how many of the hands that I've had with this deck just leave me not playing Magic in so many cases. Either because the Wasteland means that I can't cast my multi-pip spells, or because I'm left with a 1-land Aether Vial hand that is just incredibly risky. Like, I have access to 1 color with this hand. I'm okay versus a Merit Lodge. I'm dead to an Urza Saga start. I'm not the best versus Sphere. I'm not going to keep this. This hand also sucks. I don't have the ability to get multiple basic lands with this hand. I can force a negation one thing, pitching a Gilded Drake. I guess I'll keep this. I'm just very unhappy. Yeah, land pass. Alright. Do I snap off a Force of Negation on this? I don't think so. I think it's too important to stop a sphere or whatever. Okay, well. Force of Negation, pitch a Gilded Drake, have no play for next turn. Okay, that is at least a non-wastelandable land drop that's worth something. Can Recruiter for Lauren on my turn to help out with the constructs themselves. Brainstorm's interesting. I think I'm just recruiting. Blue, white, just take myself off of black to have better lands in play. I don't actually have that much black in my deck right now. I think I am going blue-white. And let's pick up Lauren. Like, I'll take a look in there and make sure that nothing else seems better, but I think that's where I'm at. Like, there's some other cute things that I could get, but I think I just need to control the tokens that are about to happen, because I am not very good at just trading with a couple of constructs right now. And I've set myself up to play around Wasteland, but in return, that means that if I top deck something like a Baleful Strix that could give me card advantage, I can't actually play it. Are you just naming Caracas? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. That gives me a chance to blow up an expedition map with a port. I am going to gain 5 life here, I think. Need to make land drops. I need to not die to these. I need to also not die to Merit Lodge. Let's see if Brainstorm can help me out of this situation. Solitude. Solitude's awkward. With Lauren in hand, Solitude is reasonable. Here's a Baleful Strix that I can't cast. Gilded Drake is interesting. I think I bury Gilded Drake, put Delta on top to redraw it. I want that 5th land, and I'm okay with Strix, I think. Play this. Do this. I take 8 and blow up map, or do I just start taking out the constructs? I feel like I can fairly beat the constructs if I don't have to worry about Merit Lodge timing. Taking out Pithing Needle is a little too slow here, I think, to be a real consideration. Well, that's horrifying, because I don't pressure my opponent's life to... Fuck. What a sequence of cards there. Now I can't hard cast Solitude, and I'm also forced to get Scrubland with this, so that I have the chance of hard casting Solitude next turn. I need the white-white. Oh, that's frustrating. So, blue-black. Draw a card. That does give me hard cast Solitude next turn. I think I'm dead, right? No, I'm not dead. I'm very close to it, though. They take 6 from one of the constructs and block the other one. And then I get 2 Solitude the other. I feel like I'm dead to Dark Depths, Sphere, and Life from the Loam, and another Saga. Ghost Quarter is scary. I think I'm also dead to that Rashadan port, unfortunately. Do I need to draw a card with Lauren and attempt to pitch cast the Solitude now to save the life? Probably fine. I am going to do it before blocks. It's awkward if I give my opponent a Pyroblast. But I wanted to have the chance to inform my own decision regarding Solitude. Alright, I'm at 1. I have to do some very sad plays, and I don't think I've dealt more than 2 points of damage to my opponent this game via, like, Sylvan Library. Or sorry, for the purposes of Sylvan Library, so my opponent just gets to draw 3 cards a turn. I cannot pressure their life total. They'll port down one of my things, keeping me from hard casting a Solitude. Unhappy with life. I get to put that in hand. Make a land drop. Drop a Vial. Attack my opponent for 2. I can pitch cast Solitude to kill a construct. I maybe should have done that while my opponent was tapped out, so that crop rotation for Sajiri Step doesn't beat me. Another Mox Diamond. Not a problem. Another Urza Saga is. I have to respond to that. Cast Exiling Yorion. Alright, I'm alive for another turn. Again, though, like, my opponent's at 16. I think I probably have to draw a card with Lauren to have a chance at remaining in the game. But, like, Port plus Sphere is so damning right now. Oh, there is a crop rotation. Sure, that's reasonable. Let's draw some cards. Okay. Doesn't have flash, right? No. I can use this to try to take control of a Urza's Saga token, I guess. Use it to take control of Shadow Spear, and then I can chump block. I think I'm just going to post-combat, draw a card, and try to find something else to do with my mana in this turn cycle, because I don't think playing this out and just, like, stealing a Mox is great. Teferi is castable. Okay. Let's cast this minus, I think, bounce the Urza Saga to buy some time. Samwise is not really looking good right now because I can't fetch. Ooh, no additional life loss this time. Alright, Urza Saga is back. Another Sphere is bad. Okay, so I can still play Samwise for 4 mana later, so I don't care about that. I also am, like, potentially just vialing it in. A new Caracas that's needled. Alright. Opponent goes to 12 from this attack. I plus Teferi. I'm thinking about, like, drawing cards versus just, like, playing this out and taking Shadow Spear. I guess I can't play, or no, I can. Maybe I just play this out and take Shadow Spear. Alright. Trample portion of my opponent's deck is now off. I also just do have a 3/2 flying lifelinker. That's worth something. No bonus cards drawn off of Urza Saga. Wasteland's not great for me. So, do I keep drawing cards? I think with Teferi in play I do. Fine. I will play a Samwise. Let's do this. I will return a Caracas to my hand. Lauren, I guess, can be my ring bearer. Leave this at 2 for Samwise tricks. I'll get ported off black. Yep. Spotted Strand is not good. I'll play Caracas. So plus with Teferi. I'm about to go to 4. I attack with all of my creatures. I will have Lauren back. Lauren blocks the Urza Saga token. If the Urza Saga token blocks Samwise, I cast a Samwise to return a Samwise to my hand. That's fine. Let's get in there. Okay. So there's the construct. This is all good. Opponent takes 5. I cast Samwise. Return Samwise to my hand. I'll keep Lauren as my ring bearer, and now I get a loot on attack. I have 2 creatures back that can block. Going to timeout. But this Samwise loot stuff is some nonsense. Another Pithing Needle is a little bit of a problem. I'm not really in a situation to play around that. There's an expedition map, so I'll have to find a way to deal with a Merit Lodge. Don't think that's supposed to attack. I just get to do this cool trick. Actually, my opponent doesn't know about the second Samwise, right? Or do they? Sorry, my brain is mush. Okay, I don't care about Bojuka Bog, right? I don't care about Bojuka Bog. There's another Urza Saga. With that, I wish I would have blocked with Lauren, but I think that's a hindsight is 2020 sort of thing. All right, third stage of this is when it becomes blocked by a creature, but that's not going to happen. Okay, my opponent has conceded the game. We won! We sure did win. Now I have to try to win a game in 7 minutes, which I think is tough. Been thinking about my sideboarding for a minute. I might want, like, a Venser. It's so slow. It's so painfully slow, but in those endgame scenarios, I just need to go and bounce some Urza Saga tokens. Maybe that's fine. Battling Mage on the draw isn't the best anyway. Play a Snuff Out to help with Urza Saga tokens, or I could play a Force of Will to help with spheres on the draw, which is what I think I'll do. I am unexcited by this. I am also going to keep it. I think I'm going to time out. No. I think I just stopped that. The Skydiver isn't looking particularly strong right now. Like, that's not good until the mid-game. I'm not going to be able to cast this Baleful Strix to cantrip because Caracas is a card that I have. Like, I might have to play Charming Prince and Scry. That might be the level of desperation that I'm going to be at. Fuck. Double fuck. If I counter this, I could get hit by a sphere. I think I am going to counter it, though, and hope that my opponent was planning on comboing off and I just stopped them. I have multiple copies of Caracas in my deck. I'm going to let that get hit by a Wasteland. And then I probably need white with this. I think I can't play around Life from the Loam happening here. I think I just have to lean in, and I think if I get basics, I end up taking myself off of too much. So we're going to scry, just fully looking for more land. I am going to bottom Teferi. I think Teferi is a fine draw. But in the worlds where I get wastelanded, I would rather have a chance at playing a 2-drop spell next turn. And I think I get wastelanded in most timelines. Took out my Tundra rather than my Caracas. That still leaves me with all of my colors, luckily. 3 mana. God damn it. Yep. My opponent now has Wasteland Life from the Loam as a thing that they can continuously do. And I will lose the game to that. It'll take a while. But there's Urza Saga. Yeah, that's game over. Like, I lose this land. Oh, and they have a follow-up play. Oh, it's just the Loam. Sure. I mean, like, just, but it's devastating. Yeah, that's too late. I can't... Well, maybe I have to make the land drop. Like, is the way that I win this game just attacking my opponent with this 2/2 until they die, and they just, like, spend too much time wastelanding me? Maybe. Maybe my line is play this land, hope they continue to wasteland it, attack them for 2 more damage. And, yeah. So this at least allows me to potentially play a 2 or 3 drop next turn. Okay, I can play a Recruiter. So this attack puts my opponent to 7. There's probably Island and Plains. Plains with the second. And then I basically have to Recruiter for a 2-drop. And it can't be Baleful Strix. Or anything that contains black. Which leaves me with incredibly limited options. I just know that my opponent has Wasteland. Can't play the Graveyard Exiling thing, because I'm going to lose Underground Sea. I think it's Samwise, and I hope the ring tempts you, gets there. Like, just play it on Charming Prince, and hope my opponent dies somehow. Oh. Yes. I can now pick up a land that's resilient to Wasteland. That's good for me, I think. Fuck you, piece of shit, Maze of Ith. Alright. Not happy with where I'm at right now. I can make this unblockable, force them to tap Maze of Ith. Doesn't actually do anything. Second creature doesn't do anything. Yeah, I just have to pass the turn. I have Wasteland in my deck for a little bit later. Don't have Force of Negation available because I tried to get all my colors. Maybe I should have just ignored black, but Baleful Strix seems pretty important right now. My opponent is potentially going to just get Shadow Spear, which is a major pain in my ass. Although Pithing Needle on Caracas is also really annoying. Yeah, it is Shadow Spear. God damn it. It's so much. Yep. That brings that to a 4/4, which means I can't profitably block it anymore. Did I use Thieving? I did use Thieving Skydiver. I'm not able to get in the damage that I need to get in. How the fuck am I winning? It involves this. Not sure where exactly I'm going from here. Like, I can't just limp over the finish line anymore. Like, I play Sam, put Recruiter to my hand. Charming Prince becomes my ring bearer. Do I bounce Sam now? Yes. I don't have the time that I need to think here. Okay. I think I'm going to do this. Pick up Strix. Cast Strix to draw a card. And work on getting some of these things out of play. Like, I have some Solitude-based lines that are okay. I think I need to trade with a Construct on my opponent's next turn. And then start working on a Sam loop or something. I just, like, can't win the game in a minute. Like, I can potentially not die. But I can't deal these 7 points of damage plus however much more my opponent can do. I also just, like, can't beat Life from the Loam long term. I'll Strix and trade with that. Okay, yeah, so you're going to make another one so that you trample over for 1 more point of damage. That's fine. Can't Sam more than once. I guess I am casting a Vial, passing the turn, blocking with Recruiter, then doing Sam. Sam, like, finds a Solitude or something. I just can't beat this string of value. Especially, well, I can potentially beat it, but not in the time constraints that I have. God damn it. Yeah. Uh-huh. Alright. The block here. Take 6, go to 4. Play Sam. Grab Recruiter. Recruiter for Solitude. Does some stuff. You're my ring bearer. You get a looting effect now. Though I don't think that matters in any capacity. Another Sam. At this point, I have 15 seconds left on my clock. I am going to concede, and I am going to drop this league as we are 0-4. Well, if you made it to this point in the video, I don't know that you need for me to sum it up, but it's kind of my job to do so. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Bad. Just full stop, bad, unplayable. And I think there's a handful of reasons for it. Number one, we live in an Orcish Bowmasters world now. Playing a bunch of X1 creatures in your deck is just like asking for like Orcish Bowmasters blowout situations to happen to you. And as Orcish Bowmaster rises in popularity, so does Plague Engineer. And both of those cards are good against this deck. As far as Samwise goes, the loops that it can do with copies of itself are kind of cute, but like this is a deck that timed out in 2 of its rounds. Like I said in the intro, I feel like this deck is pretty good at not losing, but absolutely terrible at winning the game. And we weren't beating the fair matchups that like we're supposed to beat with our inevitability. We weren't beating the combo matchups that our sideboard is tailor-made to kind of try to bridge the gap because our game 1 against them is going to be so bad. Ultimately, I feel like this deck is too slow. Now, I am no Esper Vial master. I don't have, a billion games in with this deck, and I'm sure there are decisions that I could have made tighter. But for the most part, I just felt like every opening hand was awful because you're trying to play this 3-color mana base that is trying to support a bunch of copies of Caracas at the same time as supporting Wasteland. And while a monocolor deck like Death and Taxes can get away with that shit, like this wants to cast Baleful Strix on turn 2. And any 2-land hand that you have that has one of these as the 2 lands can't cast a Baleful Strix. And you need all your colors early on because like you care about turn 1 swords, turn 1 or turn 2 brainstorm, and like all these 2-drops as well. I like this deck just kind of lost to itself in a huge portion of these games. And like if I continue to group monocolored lands over here, like 13, so not quite half of the lands in this deck are only producing a single color. And that's rough when you are trying to support a 3-color multi-pip mana base. Some games I flooded out, some games I was close to turning the corner, but like I feel like I can't pressure combo, and I feel like I'm too slow versus the fair decks while not maxing out on copies of Orcish Bowmasters for the Orcish Bowmasters mirror. I wouldn't be caught dead playing this in a league again. So yeah, that's where I'm at. If you disagree with me, let me know down in the comments down below. But I think it's pretty hard to go, yeah, play that deck in Legacy after watching this league. But if you want to buy some cards for this deck because you're a masochist, Cool Stuff Inc. is the place to shop, and promo code ThrabenU will save you 5%. Folks, I hope you have a great rest of the day. I'm gonna go cry. See you.